Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Game of Life. This is a very special one for us here. For those of you who don't know, I have one sister, and this is my favorite sister joining us today. So we have Jenna here. So we're really excited about this one. Jenna, I guess I'll let you introduce yourself.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, family.
Yeah.
Nice they finally invited me on. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, stop.
I'm
Yeah,
just
okay.
I'm kidding. I don't know where to start. I guess as obviously it's my dad and sister. I live in Virginia now. I am a high school counselor and I do help coach varsity softball as an assistant. I'm also taking classes to become a licensed therapist in hopefully the next year or two. So I hope that was a good enough introduction.
Well, licensed therapist is the key because I think this family has needed one of them for a long time.
Oh my gosh.
No, you're doing great stuff, Jenna. Do you want to talk a little bit about your softball background too?
Sure.
Minor details, but
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Played with.
I have all the statistics if she doesn't mention one. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
right. Well, I played with Allie as long as I can remember. I think I started traveling while I was around 8. Has consumed every summer for my life growing up, but I wouldn't change a minute of it. And I started out at St. Bonaventure University for my first year, and then I transferred to the University of Buffalo to finish out. And then right after I graduated, I moved right to Virginia, knowing nobody, but let's just go for it. But that's just kind of my life motto. So
100%. No, it was awesome to see you do that, and you've done really well for yourself down there, which has been good to see too. Where do you want to start? We got so much to talk about.
We have a ton to talk about. Jenna, I'm gonna start. You guys were supposed to be golfers. I tell Ellie that all the time.
right.
Okay. I mean, I built the green in my backyard. I'll never forget you were playing rec league softball and you tried out for All Stars, 8U All Stars, which is insane because there's no pitching. It's off a tee. And we brought you to the field. We're like, Jenna, like, there's going to be a list of names. You may or may not be there, and turns out you were there. And then the funny thing, it was the Seitz family that was coaching. And we've had Tess on my other podcasts, and the rest is history. But uh, that, how did you, what did you think when you were that young competing? Because you didn't have a competitive bone in your body before softball. Like in soccer, the ball would hit you and you'd cry.
I was gonna say I don't know what I
Take
was
you
thinking.
and all you'd want is
Not a
gold.
whole lot of nothing.
Well,
Like,
as a child, as you two know, I was probably the most unathletic kid ever. I think I
absolutely.
finally just found something that I didn't absolutely suck at, and I said, "Hey, someone wants me on their team."
Well,
All right.
I don't even know if you didn't suck at it. You just didn't even move or try. Like
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with sucking.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I don't know what clicked all of a sudden in softball. You're competing and you're playing and you're starting and then just boom, all of a sudden all my weekends are just taken for the next decade. I don't I think back, I don't even know what happened. Ellie just came along. Like whether she was athletic or not, that's another story. Like we're just like, well, we're here with Jenna, either you play or you don't, and let's go. So
Yeah.
but how did it I don't even understand what happened to this day.
I don't know. I think I just found something that a bunch of my friends were doing that I really didn't hate every second of it. It sounds horrible, but I remember mom made me try dance. I cried every day. Girl Scouts cried. Soccer cried. I was like, I'm not crying at this point. No, I think I just found something with my friends that I liked, and I got a cool opportunity. And you and mom have always taught me to just go take every opportunity and go with it. So that's just what I did. And then the rest is history. As you said, weekends started getting consumed, and then the whole year got consumed, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But
Yeah. And I know we're joking a little bit about your nonchalant attitude, but like honestly,
Right.
that's something I admire about you because you've always like played and just lived life that way. Like it is what it is, like happens for a reason. But I don't want people to mistake that as like you not caring because like you work so hard at
yes.
stuff. So do you want to talk about like that mindset a little bit and how it's helped you just through athletics and through life too, or even like softball growing
Yeah. I don't even know where to start with that. That was such a
Yeah,
vague.
I know. Sorry, that was a tough one.
No,
Well,
you're
well,
good.
well, her nonchalant attitude, we call her a tumbleweed to this day.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I just learned, I don't even know when I started learning this. I think maybe in high school to just control what I can control and why, stress about the rest. And it sounds so simple, but a lot of people, I feel like, who I see not living by that mindset. I'm not saying my mindset is correct because there's definitely times where the stress is needed, but just stress and get angry about things that happen, a lost game or a coach being mad at them or an ump or ref making a bad call. But what's the point? I remember dad always joking around, like if someone yells at the they're not gonna be like, oh, right, that was a strike, sir. Come back in
Yeah.
the box or something like that.
Right.
And so I just started having that mindset. It started small with just that example, not getting mad at umps or refs, even when I really wanted to. And I kind of just took it from there, and I saw that it was working for me personally. So I just ran with that mindset. But don't get me wrong, there's definitely are some times where the stress came about, but I think it's just dealing and coping with that, and truthfully just knowing that God has a plan for me and I'm where I'm supposed to be and just going from there. So it sounds simple, but
And
took a
I
while
think
to get there.
And people who know us really well, and we joke all the time, like God definitely put us in the same family for a reason
Yes.
because we are polar opposites. I like growing up, I was stressed. I just cared a lot about like the small details. I was super over analytical, and Jenna would be like, "Dude, relax." And I'm like, "You need to care more. Like, why don't you care?" So, and
Yeah.
Dad, I'm interested in your perspective of like watching us grow up doing that. But honestly, like I loved it because I feel like we balanced
Mhm.
each other out pretty well in different times. But I'm curious on Dad's perspective.
Well, a couple things. We've talked about it in earlier episodes. Allie always wants feedback on everything. Jenna could hit a home run, and if I was in the dugout, like heaven forbid, I slap her hand when she rounds the bases. There's just like nothing. It's just got to pretend like I don't even know her. And then after the game, we have our moments. But I think looking back to all of this, you guys, when you started playing softball, I mean, I was a college golf coach at the time, and I was missing you guys in t-ball, and some people say that's good or bad because t-ball games are torturous, with the hours and the cold weather. But we never got into the softball journey thinking like there's going to be an end game. You guys liked it. Your grandparents supported you, and you played a lot of ball with them, and you guys literally were just present in the moment of having fun. And I think maybe the reason you stuck with softball is because that's what you had the most fun doing. Something about throwing a ball and hitting a ball. I mean,
Mhm.
no one thought it was going to be let's do this and travel here and try to go play college. You guys literally were just present in the moment. And I think if you ever try to be good at anything, it has to start with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I just to piggyback off that too, I feel like growing up, and Jenna, tell me if I'm wrong, it's like we just really like the process of it. Like if we had a bad game, we came home and it's like, all right, come do this with me. Like, how can I get better at it? We never came home. Like Jenna, I remember times you being like, you did not do well today. But it was never like, and I said the same thing to you in the nicest way, but it was never, oh, it's everyone else's fault. You're fine. You're like, no, you're swinging whack today. Like it did
Mhm.
not, it did not look good. And honestly, sometimes you need that. And I think nowadays, a lot of times it's everyone else's fault. Oh, sweetie, it's okay, no worries. And it was
Mhm.
really nice like that for us.
Yeah, and I think that's just too, circling back to that tumbleweed mindset that I have too. Like and I was lucky enough to grow up, in the family that I am. So thank you, Mom and Dad and Allie, for that. But just knowing, like, take the constructive criticism, self-reflect on it, and don't blame anyone else. Like, if I had a bad game, even if my coach was telling me, oh, swing at this, swing at that, at the end of the day, I struck out, not them. So, and I think it's, not saying everybody's like that, but definitely coaching and just being on the other side of it now, there's definitely sometimes, and, those are sometimes I see the girls that struggle, either mentally or physically in the game. So I think a big part of that is just self-reflecting and going back to what you can control. And I can control my attitude during this game. I can control my physical ability. If I make a mistake, that's okay. And then just move on to the next game and go from there. But yeah, I definitely remember Allie telling me that I suck sometimes.
Well,
I know. I literally remember. I remember one game in college. I'm like, this is exactly what it's like to have a sister, because I think I went 2 for 3 with 2 doubles, but I slid into second base and I like tweaked my shoulder, and she texted me, was like, "Great game. What happened with your slide?" I'm like, okay. What, like, let's not focus on the good.
I think not to cut you off, but I think it also kept us humble. Like, you think you had a great game and went 2 for 3, and we didn't put each other down all the time. That was more of a joking matter, but it just kind of kept you humble too, because there's always stuff you can improve on. And I just think having that mindset in life too, you should never just live in your comfort zone, like Dad always says, and just being able to self-reflect on the areas that are your weaknesses, and not just in softball, but in life too.
How much of that do you think is your responsibility, and how much do you think it's, the responsibility of other people? Because to me, and I tell the girls I coach all the time, like, if you don't respond well to feedback, your teammates and your friends are going to stop giving it to you. Mm-hmm. So you have to be receptive, or people aren't going to want to give it to you anymore. And then you're going to say, well, no one tells me the truth. Yeah, because you don't act right when you receive it. If you yell at me, I'm not going to say anything ever again.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely am seeing that now too. But I also tell my girls, I'm like, if you don't understand what I'm saying, please tell me. Because sometimes I start talking and then I forget what I'm talking about, that I confuse myself. And I'm like, if I just told you something, a correction, don't just look at me like I've been in your shoes. Don't just be like, yeah. Be like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Can you explain it to me a different way? Or like you said, I mean, I think it's important too to, yes, there is that feedback version too, but just focusing on those who have that positive energy and who want to be there, definitely make it easier as a coach too.
A couple things. I'm trying to go way back to what we just talked about in the last couple minutes. I think we've always held each other accountable. I mean, viewers on this podcast have heard stories how I've been kicked out of games and been held accountable by the family.
I'll never forget that when Allie lectured him in the car.
I remember in 10U, we're in Lewisburg, PA, and Allie called the timeout catching and goes to the mound, and I come out there and I'm like, what's happening? I'm a new coach. Like, again, you're supposed to be golfers. I'm new to this. I'm just a softball dad. And she's like, you got to take her out. She's not hitting her spots.
Was Jenna pitching? Jenna was pitching?
Yeah, Jenna was pitching. And I'm like,
you do that to me in high school. It's fine.
I don't even understand right now what I'm supposed to do as a dad, yet alone a coach.
Okay, no, but it was
no. But then in high school, I remember there were times Jenna would be like, "Don't even come out, Allie," because Allie started as a catcher. She'd be like, "Nope, we're not going to do that." But I think we before you talk, I think we always did a good job. The accountability thing's tough. We always did a good job of kind of hiding it in public, like how mad we were at each other at the time. Now you go back and talk about it. When you cool down, that's what made us better.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I was just going to say, I was going to bring that up. In high school, I would catch and Jenna would pitch, which was awesome. Like, I know we're talking about the joking stuff, but like, we were each other's biggest fans too. But
right.
Like coaches do when your pitcher's struggling, but they're like, call time out and go talk to her. And I remember my coach was like, call time out. I was like, no, thank you. And she's like, get out there. So I call time out and I get out there and Jenna's like, what? I was like, oh no. I was
I
like,
knew I just had walked like 2 or 3
no, she
people.
goes, what? I go, I don't have anything to say. I have to be out here. And Jenna's like, all right, bye.
You know, and at that moment, like did not have the best attitude for sure.
No,
But I
no.
think it's just like holding each other accountable too, which I think is so big. And I know on my team, Megan and I talk about having softball IQ all the time and explaining what that is. And I feel like sometimes kids struggle because their parents or whoever's there's watching them tells them every single move. And I'm sorry if this is
Amen.
right or wrong, but I just don't think that's how you learn in life. Like you have to let them fail and you have to let others hold you accountable. Like there's sometimes some girls will get on each other and the other one gets super upset, which obviously I did in that situation. So not perfect, but in the long run, it makes you better. And I think, how do you get to that point of being open to feedback and open to accountability? Because once you're there, it's a great place to be. But we were just lucky enough to be in a family where that's what it was. There was not really an option to not do that, but in a good way. So
So, tough question I want to ask you because now, I mean, all three of us are coaching, and I think we probably see trends, like as we're
Which is
coaching.
crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, it's wild. So, you talk about, those parents who want to give feedback at every single, thing that they do. If you're that kid in that situation, what do you do? Like, how do you handle that, right? Because I think a lot of kids know that it's happening, but it's really, really hard in game
yeah.
to kind of zone it out and listen to your coaches and trust in what your process is. So I guess I know it's a tough question, but what's your advice to them? Because I think a lot of kids know what's happening, but they don't know what to do with it.
Mhm. I just think the best answer for a lot of things in life, I don't know if it's a direct answer, but just is communication. Because I definitely see that now, and it's like obviously you're not going to yell back at them in the game, but just having that communication at home, having that communication in the car after the game, and it's not easy for a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid to do. Like we're saying that in our 20s or 50s here. But just or even asking a coach like it's happening, how can I go about doing this? But there's no easy way. And again, that's where I say I'm blessed to be in mom and dad's family and raised by their mindsets, because we didn't have that. But I do remember times and that's where the 5-minute bitch sessions came in. Like, listen, there's too much feedback right now. We got to let's have a balance here. So I think even just starting that communication could go a long way, but it is hard for a 14-year-old to do with
And
their family.
and I've seen it with a lot of kids too, where they feel like they fix something and then immediately something else is wrong. And
Yep.
then over time, it starts to be like, well, what am I good at?
Right.
Like it starts to kind of hurt their self confidence because it's just, okay, fix that, now work on this. Okay, you did that one time, now switch to this. And all of a sudden, you're like, I don't even know my swing anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. My mechanics are messed up and I'm overthinking. And that's just hard to see too.
Yeah. And that's the
There-
part where I'm really trying to be an impact in coaching, is being that positive energy. Maybe the girls would say differently, but I hope not. And just pointing out those positives, because we've all been there where you've had coaches that are like that. And I always told myself I would try to be that positive energy and yes, correct them, but also point out what they're doing well and the positives, and giving them hope that they are good players and they care. They wouldn't be there. So I think that's a big aspect of it, since we are all coaches now and actually can have that impact and change too.
I want to talk quick about you mentioned it, the 5-minute bitch fest. It's hard. Again, I was a golfer. Some people say that's not even a sport in high school. We won't go there. I played baseball and actually stopped my junior year because of golf. And uh, a lot of parents, you guys play sports, and sometimes parents have played, sometimes they haven't. But someday when you're a parent, you're going to realize like there's nothing better than watching like your kids just
Mm-hmm.
do well. And then you just click into another drive of emotion, and no matter what you do, if there's any mistake, it's natural. I mean, every person listening to this podcast will realize the parents want to give feedback afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's intended to be good. But even if it's good or bad, sometimes the timing's not right. So I want to hear it from your perspective. I don't want me to explain it. What was the 5 minute bitch fest that we developed? What was that all about? Because I
Take it
I
Well,
think
away,
it really
Jenna. Take
saved
it
us
away.
as a family. Like I really think you guys played sports because you're competitive, but I
Mhm.
think you kept playing all the sports because I just think this was a big thing to help us through.
mhm. Well, I think I'm kind of the one that steered this because positive Polly over here, my father, after games, you come back, did horrible, gave up a home run, struck out 3 times. You're
Or
just
in basketball or anything
yeah,
else. It didn't
yeah,
matter
or
what
I'll just
sport.
keep
Yeah.
using softball, basketball, did not do well either. And I'd get in the car and I'm like, dang it, I just did not have a good game. Well, you threw from right field good or something. And it's like, not the time, Dad, not the time. So we came up with this 5 minute bitch session where after games, we got in the car and you set a timer for 5 minutes and you just complain, 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 and no one in the vehicle is allowed to give any sort of feedback. We're just looking for sympathy here. And after that 5 minutes is up, it's over, and you move on to the next thing. And honestly, my roommate Katie, I come home and do that sometimes before, we go to our, just go wherever. And I'm like, Katie, I need 5 minutes, set a timer. I'm so annoyed from work or something. And it's a great, I'm telling you, it's a great way to go about life just because I feel like you do need that time to just vent. Like I don't think it's healthy to just hold it all in either because that's where things just can start to go downhill and pile up, but it's a great way to get it out, but then also allow yourself after to move on and, say at the end of the day, it's just a game or it's just a day. It's just a part of my day. And it was the greatest thing we ever did. And honestly started because I was raised in too much of a positive family almost.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
like, I need
the
my
tough part
time.
of the tough part of that was when we were both on the same team. Like, even if you played great and I played bad, like it's still like a good competition.
Right.
And it's both of us played great. But no, I do agree. I think it was really good just because, especially on those long rides home, like we
Hmm.
weren't harping on it for 5 hours because that's just exhausting. And honestly, after the 5 minutes, it's not really helpful anymore because you're just
Right.
saying the same things over and over in a different way and still looking for sympathy. So I think it kind of like our parents did a really good job, dad, you and mom, of like knowing that we weren't just our sport. Like that's not where our worth comes from. But I think too, like that added to that because this isn't your life. Like we're not going to talk about it for the next 5 hours. We're going to talk about it for 5 minutes and then like talk about what we're getting for dinner.
Hmm.
So
And
a couple things quick.
yeah.
You we were blessed, and I mean, I don't know if it was luck or how we started from the early days of you guys really not being athletic or getting sports, but uh I never like we the bitch fests were nice because we stopped like you can't second guess what someone tries to do when they compete because at the time if you're trying your best and you're doing what you think's right at the time, sometimes you win and lose. So the bitch fests were nice because in the car, like you got it all out, but I wasn't gonna do a rebuttal like, well, if you would have swung at pitch two, then switch four wouldn't have been strike three. And I think some families, and we were blessed in this regard, you have to look each other in the eye and say, are you really trying your best during a contest? Uh, uh, Kids, are you trying your best every pitch? And if you're trying your best and win or lose or how good or bad it goes, you still need time to vent, but you don't need feedback sometimes. But if you're not trying your best, I think that's where parents start coming in with all the feedback, and then kids get defensive because they're not trying their best, and then I think it's just a downward spiral. Sorry for the vent a little bit, but what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I've also learned coaching because I did turn into a super competitive person, and I would definitely say I still am, is that not everyone like has that goal to play at any college level or the D1 level or any level on anything or, at just even at work or any example like doing the best job I can. Some people are just doing it for fun, just because they want to join something they love something to do. And I think even if you're in that mindset, it's just because everyone wants to complain a little bit too, and you need that time to just allow yourself to be sad or angry and feel all those emotions. But then also you have to allow yourself to move on. Like Allie said, you can't dwell on it for the next 12 hours. That's going to do you no good except waste precious time. But I think just just understanding that there are different types of people, those who are super competitive and want to be the best at everything they do. And then also that group of people who is just out here having fun, and what you're doing might not be their favorite thing. They just want to be involved in something too, if that made sense.
Yeah, but I feel if you don't try your best every minute of
Mm-hmm.
competition, then the stuff we're talking about doesn't help because now
Yeah.
you're a victim. Like the
Right.
bitch fest wasn't about being a victim. It was just like, listen, I tried my best. It just didn't go well. Here's why I'm complaining or mad. Now I'm ready to move on. And I feel people could twist this the wrong way if they're not trying their best, then it becomes 5 minutes of just blaming other people, and that's
Well,
not what we did.
and I feel like a big thing too that we haven't talked about yet is because we did that, and I feel had like a healthy relationship with the feedback piece. It actually like made me want to come to you sometimes and
Yes.
like ask for
Mm-hmm.
help because you weren't giving it all the time. So
Yeah.
like after we got home 2 days later, I'd be like, Dad, can we talk about my swim? Like, can we talk about what happened this
Mm-hmm.
weekend when I was ready? It wasn't you're giving me feedback because the more feedback you give me, the less I'm going to listen. If you're giving it every 2 seconds, it's not valuable to me anymore. Like it's going to go in one ear right out the other. Whereas if I ask you on my terms, I want your help. And like same with you, Jenna, I would ask for your help too sometimes
Yeah.
and vice versa. So I feel like that really helped in that regard too.
I call it the Charlie Brown syndrome because if you just hear stuff all the time, it becomes the teacher's voice, right? In those shows, wah
Mm-hmm.
wah 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 wah. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when I'm coaching or when any of us are coaching and people are giving advice during a game, how much of that advice are the players and athletes really listening to? It's just noise at that point, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the real feedback comes from venting and then maybe a day later building awareness and coming back and asking questions. But during a game, it's just nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I want to pivot a little bit from this too, Jenna. I know we've talked about this as a family a lot, but when it comes to sports and thinking about life, this podcast is on the game of life, obviously. What does kind of the word perspective mean to you when it comes to athletics? Like, what do you kind of think about when it comes to that and keeping things in perspective, whether it be throughout your career or coaching now?
That's a good question. I just think, kind of like I said earlier, just allowing yourself to control the things that you can control and allowing that feedback piece too. And just knowing that you don't know everything and knowing you don't have all the answers. And just giving everything perspective out there, whether, and like I just touched on a minute ago, if I'm getting really mad at somebody, one of the players, because they're not, like, going 10 for 10 in front toss or something, but they're really here just to have fun and have a good time with their friends. It's just like you have to adjust and realize, oh, they're not here to play at the Division 1 level, or they don't want to play college softball. They just want to be involved in something, and just allowing yourself to be okay. I don't know everything as a coach, because sometimes I feel like those coaches are the most toxic who do think they know
Yeah.
everything. And I'm just going to be point blank. And
Yeah.
and with playing too, just realizing, I'm not the best player here in high school. If you're playing in college, you probably are the best player on your team, and realizing that when I get to that next level, everyone's going to be all state on my team. And I just feel like allowing others to kind of give their opinions and listening and taking in what you need, and allowing it to go in one ear and out the other what you don't need. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that
No,
answered it.
yeah, off of that too, how do you feel like your perspective or even your faith like helped you get through or still helps you get through like those low times when they're considered failures, right? Like how
Yeah.
does perspective pull you out?
Yeah. Well, when I got to Buffalo, the greatest group that I joined was called FCA, this Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and it was the greatest decision of my life. Because we all are Catholic. And it was a group that was only for athletes. I think most colleges have it.
I was in
And
one of them too.
yeah, and there's one at Binghamton, and basically there's a leader. You pick a topic each week, and it's only athletes are in there. So it's everybody who's in your shoes at the college, and you relate it to the Bible and failures. I don't know if sometimes I remember one time we did a topic about failing in your sport and how to cope with that, but also relating it to religion. And I really liked that. That was, again, the best group I joined. It also allowed you to connect with, I know one time I went and one of my teammates was there and I didn't even know she was going. And I was like, what are you doing here? And it just allowed you to make those. And then we started going each week together and made it a thing. And then when I failed during practice or she failed and our coach was screaming at us, you just have that relationship. And same with athletes on other teams. And that, again, I always think it's great to join something or stepping outside your comfort zone. The first time before I went, I was like shaking because it was out of your comfort zone, but it was the best thing I ever done. The leader ended up coming to all my softball games even and just supporting us, and just going from there too.
I think it's just important to know too, whatever it is that you're in, like you're part of something bigger than yourself. Because I feel like sometimes when you play sport, you can feel on an island, especially when you're not doing well. So like to know people are in your corner and have your back like all the time, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, very true. I think also another point in that too is just to admit when you're struggling. You had 3 bad games and you're in a slump, and it's okay to not be on that high anymore, because the low in sports are low. Any athlete can attest to that. The highs are very high and the lows are very low. And whether it's your friends you turn to, your parents, like an outside adult, anything, and just, feeling those emotions too, because when they get built up, it's just you keep failing most of the time and not.
And on that too, and then Dad, I'll let you hop in. That's why I feel like it's so important to have friends that don't do what you do, because they offer you that perspective. Like I would go to some of my friends in college who didn't even know where the softball field was and just talk to them for 3 hours, and it like kind of reminded me, oh, not everybody does this. Like I have a life outside of this that isn't just what's on the field. So I think no matter like what you're involved in, having people who can see it clearly from the outside are really helpful as well. And that's why I always enjoyed Jenna talking to you throughout college, because we were in it, like we were doing the same thing, but all our characters in the story were different. So it was like you had an outside perspective.
Yeah.
It's from a parent point of view. Again, I'm gonna go back a little bit from two girls that I didn't even think had an athletic bone in their body. Like I don't
say it again. Say it
No,
again.
I just like saying that, and I'm gonna say it one more time. No, but from a parent, then you see the spark, and then they compete, and then they get good at things, and you can go in crazy mode as a parent. And one thing Mom did, I could flip the switch and be a little crazy sometimes, and and your mom would say, "Hey, you've got that look in your eyes. You got to dial it back down." I mean, it wasn't always that simple, but she was great with that. But the point is, it's it's what you're doing, even in travel ball or high school, especially in college, what you're doing is not normal. But when you're with people doing the same thing, you just think it's life and it's everything. And you mentioned perspective earlier. You have to find ways to understand this isn't your whole life. This is just a season, a chapter, a part of what you're doing. And all the skills and everything you're doing can be rewarding and fun, but and can lead to other successes in your life, but this isn't the end all. And I think we all we did well reeling each other in. I mean, you three, especially with me, Mom, you and Jenna, but
you were
I think
great. You're great.
No, you were.
I think no, well, I mean, yes, but at times.
But yeah, I was.
but it's important to realize that this is just part of you. It's not you.
Donna, going off of that, I'm curious, what do you feel like are some of the skills you've taken into your adult life, the real world, from having grown up in athletics?
Oh, easy number 1, constructive criticism. I forget who I was talking about with this recently, but I've had great coaches, so don't get me wrong, like not focusing on negatives. There are definitely some, when you get called an embarrassment during a game, or that your swing sucks, or just shooting you down. Again, had some great coaches too, and then I like going for my end of the year evaluation, and I'm like, oh, that's it? Like, I don't say that, but you're just,
Or like
you know,
a job feedback now probably seems like
yes,
not
or
caring at
just
all.
even anything like, oh, you're doing this. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, and just but turning that into a positive way. I hope that didn't sound negative, but
No.
like in all seriousness, just being able to take that constructive criticism and being able to self-reflect, because I think that's very important. And just going into any aspect of my life, and like my dad says, being a lifelong learner and just always being open to opportunities and critiques, and just allowing to, because obviously I still get stuff said. I mean, everyone does that. You're like, wow, that was kind of rude. But just letting that stuff go in through one ear and out the other, and taking the good constructive feedback and being able to apply that, which is a skill I'm very, very grateful for, because I do see, you know, some coworkers or people around me who just get so butthurt by everything. And I'm like, I want to hear what a coach said to me one time, you know, no. But just being able, I am so grateful for that, though. And look, you know, at the time I was very angry and wanted to cry when that stuff was said to me. But now looking back, it just made me stronger and into a better person too. Just seeing a little bit of a sensitive mindset we live in this day and age too.
And
So
it doesn't make the situation at the time right or wrong.
right.
You just learn to deal with it. And that's the
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. And then another one for you too, I'm curious, obviously your job as a school counselor, you deal with emotion and a lot of people and how to communicate with them. How do you feel like growing up around different teammates and just like so many different people helped you become a better communicator? Because I know we obviously both had people who were easy, people who were a little less easy, we'll just say, to be around. Right.
Yeah, well, I think I really learned this in the past year, most definitely, because I came into being a school counselor with zero experience beside my COVID internship, which was very helpful. I'm grateful for that, but really and I think the biggest thing in communication, I've said this to you guys, is, you know, just analyzing the situation and asking them, are you looking for sympathy or solutions here? You know, because sometimes people come in and they just want to vent about how horrible everything is, which relates back to the bitch fest. You know, I was not looking for solutions in that moment. I did not want to hear how my swing was critiqued. But then sometimes people are looking for those solutions, because just think about it in life too. If Allie, you come and complain to me and I give you a solution that you're not looking for, you're more than likely going to get super defensive at me and mad at me. And it's going to start an argument when you're really just looking for me to listen to you. So I'm convinced, and that solves most problems, just realizing if they're looking for sympathy or solutions. So I think that's really helped me.
I'm a solutions person, and there have been multiple times where you call me and you're like, stop, just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop trying to fix it. It's fine. But I think that's huge, because like if you go into a conversation, you're both at a different page about what you want that outcome to be. You just get mad at each other. Like you're not even mad at the situation anymore. Now I'm mad at you for no reason.
You're giving me solutions that I'm not looking for. You're not listening to me.
Stop trying to be helpful. Stop.
Yes, but sometimes you just need that, and they're looking for that. So I think that's really helped me a lot. And looking back on situations in high school or in college, and you can think of some too, where people were not looking for solutions.
I use that all the time. And listen, I couldn't be prouder, because when you guys were little, we didn't know this journey even existed, right? Like we didn't know what was going to happen. We lived in the moment year to year. It just snowballed, and I think you learned a lot of good lessons that have transferred into your careers, and it makes me proud. I wanna step back a minute, and I want each of us to talk about a crazy slash funny moment in sports that you'll never forget. I mean, maybe it wasn't funny at the time, but something you'll never forget about sports that you still makes you chuckle to this day.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
Well, the one that comes to mind for me is when you got thrown out and I lectured you, but I'll think of another one.
I was sitting under a tree. Yeah, we've talked about that.
I got one. I got one. This was when I forget what team we were on, but we were playing New Era, and that girl was throwing a perfect game. Or we were playing a really good travel team.
It was like the PA Crunch or something.
It was the PA. It was down in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
What do you think I'm gonna say?
When you squatted.
Oh yeah. So we were playing a really good travel team. And this girl was throwing a perfect game, and I'm just gonna put it nicely. I was probably the not greatest player on our team.
No, she was.
You were
the worst player.
And
You, you
it's
you
so
you didn't get a hit till the last tournament of the season, but
okay. We didn't need to say all that. We did not need to say that. I yeah, wasn't very strong, and I went to the box, and it was toward the end of the game. This girl was throwing a perfect game, so no walks, no hits. My coach is like, squat down so she can't throw you a strike. So I'm like in there squatted down. Did she walk me?
yeah, she
Yeah.
walked
Yeah,
you.
she walked.
You're
She
pretty
walked me.
Why
good.
do we remember the story better than
Well, I don't know. I think I blacked out in the box. I didn't know what was happening. And I wasn't used to being on first base, so I'm surprised I don't remember to be you. But yeah, so I squatted. I broke up her perfect game because I was like, my strike zone was this big, and somehow the umpire just kept calling them balls. The other team got a little upset, but yeah, really.
In all seriousness, though, I remember you getting in the car and saying like, "Wow, like how do you get that good in a sport?" Like you weren't mad. You're just like you didn't even understand how someone could be that good. Like 'cause it wasn't a world we were in. And I think, it kind of fuels you a little bit, right? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Anyways.
Oh,
Jenna?
your turn, Dad.
Oh, okay. I remember when Jenna started pitching and we were only 10U, Lady Ice at the time, and our other pitcher had strep throat for the weekend. And Jenna and her friend Olivia, who ended up winning a state title in college or high school, you guys were both new pitchers. We went to New Jersey and you pitched. You and your friend threw a no hitter, but we lost like 10-0.
Yeah.
The team didn't
Oh,
have a hit, but
ooh, yeah,
between
that
all
was
the walks and we were a really young team, so when they did hit the ball, we weren't too crisp, let's just say that. We got mercied, and you and your friend didn't give up a hit, and I'm like, nowadays, like, do you post that on Instagram, like, so proud of my daughter's no hitter, hey, hey,
yeah.
and you
Lost
mercy,
10-0 though.
hashtag mercies don't matter, I mean,
Oh
but we
Lord.
did, but again, we didn't even discuss that real, like it was just growing pains, but I'll never forget that. That was like, what are we even doing? We just drove 4 hours for this to happen. But anyways.
That was tough. This is kind of clumped together, but I just remember, sorry, Allie,
Oh,
just after just after we lost and specifically basketball, Allie would just get so angry and storm to her room and just refuse to talk to anybody. And I'm just like, what's for dinner? And just or before games too. And this is where we talk about how we're polar opposite. I'm shoving down cake and pizza before games. Allie's eating an apple, just
oh,
super
oh,
stressed, like
no. So
watching film, doing all this, and I'm just so nonchalant going about everything. And
yeah, I remember my junior year, your senior year of basketball, we were both on varsity basketball. And before every game, I'm like, I need a turkey sub. I need it to be like this. Like, this is what my body needs. And you ate like 3 mini donuts and Arnold Palmer and like, I don't even know, a piece of pizza or something.
well, we had to get there so early. I had time to digest. I was saying.
What?
But we really
Ev-
did like compliment each other so well. God knew
Yeah,
we needed each other. As
yeah.
because if there was
Everybody's
two of
different.
you, would have been anxiety central, and if there was two of me, nothing would have gotten done. So it was good. It was a
Well,
good.
one other funny memory that comes to mind that'll show you our personalities. When we were home over COVID, we were both doing schoolwork. We were both in college, and she's like, let's do homework together. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we went downstairs. She put some music on. We're 10 minutes in. She closes her laptop and goes, so like time for a snack or what? I'm like, we didn't even do anything.
Oh God, it's okay.
Well,
Allie had her math problems taped up all over the wall. So
Allie, you started doing math problems that had no numbers, and you just lost Jenna and I. Like it
yeah,
didn't matter.
yeah.
Uh, but anyways, the fun thing is I see a lot of younger people. I would trade everything to go back to those days. It was a blast, but I think we've transitioned well, and again, it makes me proud that we're all kind of still involved in the game, doing what we do, and that's
Mhm.
why it's the game of life. I mean, not just softball, but just the lessons. And we've all experienced. We just had some conversations on the phone the last couple weeks we're all experiencing craziness. And like, regardless of our journey and our success and what we've done, there's people that still don't buy in, and we're trying to navigate it all. But I think at the end of the day, the net gain is we're doing good and we're having fun and we're providing meaning for our lives and other people's lives. So, any
Yeah.
last words before we're
I,
done?
I was just gonna say, I really think like of all we've gone through, we've genuinely learned how to like handle hard better, which is one of my favorite
Yeah.
sayings. And I think sometimes, kids grow up and they're saying, well, if I can just get through this, it'll be easier. If I can get to there, it'll be easier. When I get recruited, it'll be easier. When I graduate college, I won't play softball anymore. It'll be easier. Like it doesn't get easier. You just have new types of hard. So if you don't develop the traits you need to deal with that adversity early on, it's going to be really, really tough for you. And I think people who stand in your way by trying to enable you and tell you it's everyone else's problem are honestly doing you a disservice because you're not learning how to handle hard.
Yep.
That's a good saying.
Yeah. Well, Jenna, thanks. I'm glad
Thank you,
I'm
guys.
glad we finally invited you and you accepted.
Right.
Exactly.
Thanks for not rejecting us, Gemma.
Yeah.
We're gonna have you on when we get to episode 100. We're gonna meet somewhere in person and do a live episode. So I'm just warning you both, okay?
Good thing we all live in different states.
Yeah, but that's what'll make it special.
Yeah.
Where's the middle of us?
Probably
That's
like
I don't even
probably
know.
like the hills of West Virginia or something. We'll have
Yeah.
to
Perfect.
Yeah.
cut
All
a
right.
spot
See you
out. But anyways, hey, I mean, listen, anytime I get a chance to talk to you guys, it's awesome. This is fun. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on, Jenna.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
All right, guys, we'll talk soon.